Hello, everybody. It's Charlie Grimes again here with the Encouragers United podcast. And today I've got two key life lessons that I've learned from running one of the most challenging track and field events out there. It's the 400 meters. Hope you're doing well today. Thanks so much for joining me. It is a wonderful series that we're going through, talking about my days back in the days when I was a student athlete running the decathlon, one of the most challenging track and field events that are out there. One that taught us a well-rounded variety of athletic skills, strengths, speed, stamina, all of those things go into the decathlon training. But lots of life lessons came out of my days in training and competing, and then later on being a coach in the great sport of track and field. And so I want to talk to you today about the fifth event in the decathlon. If you've been following through and following along with my leadership series, it's called the All-Around Leader. My premise is that in leadership, we have to be well-rounded. You're going to wear lots of different hats. If you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you're a pastor, if you're a mentor, if you're a parent, you're going to have to be well-rounded, and you're going to have to be an all-around leader. Knowing when to work hard, knowing when to rest, knowing how to tackle the problems that your daily life brings. And so I'm just here to encourage you, and I just want to help you to be that well-rounded, all-around value that your organization needs. And so the 400 meters, pretty simple, right? One time around the outdoor track. If you're unfamiliar with that distance, it's about a quarter of a mile. And it's a dangerous sprint, right? It's not all out, but you can't just, jog it either. It is a maximum controllable speed around this track. And I want to start with one life lesson, and it's about pace, right? We would come to the 400 meters, and we would have to know ourselves well enough to know that we can't just from the gun take off at like a bat out of you-know-where, running as fast as we possibly could. A single lap around the track is too far to run at all-out speed. So you've got to pace yourself. You actually can't run the whole distance as fast as you possibly can because you're going to get way too tired. And my guess is that you're going to get tired about halfway through, and then that second half is going to be absolutely miserable. In fact, if you've ever run this distance, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's too far to run all out, but it's just short enough that you've got to run really hard. I've watched way too many immature or incompetent runners get way too excited, and they burn out about 300 meters in, and they've got a miserable 100 meters to go. When I would coach an athlete, I would often train them at what we wanted to be 75, 85, 90% of their maximum speed. And so we would do lots of testing, and we would set up pacings, and we would practice this to establish the pace that was the best for them to try to tackle, that 400 meters. It's a very formidable distance. But you've got to pace yourself when you're up against such an enemy, right? And how does that apply in life? Well, we've got to pace ourselves when we tackle issues in our life, right? We can get way too emotional. We get way too excited. We go rushing into it, and then you're going to fatigue out, and you're not going to be the best you can be because you've burned out. And then you're going to have a miserable crawl to the finish. I would often recommend that sprinters try to relax, especially in the beginning part of the race, right? Relax, relax, relax. You're running fast, but you're relaxing. You're not pushing. Then we slowly turned up the heat until the last 100 meters or so, we were really concentrating on our form and trying to finish as hard as possible. So life lesson number one, pace yourself. When you've got a hard hill to run up, when you've got a hard task ahead of you, pace yourself. Slow down, start in a relaxed pace, and don't overdo it too early or you're really going to pay, right? Now, leadership demands that we know ourselves well enough in order to set that pace. And you've got to know yourself. I've learned that in the last couple months, right? We're trying to slow down. We're trying to do things that will help us maintain our health, take good care of ourselves, get good sleep, good food to eat, right? Lots of water to drink. We've got to pace ourselves and make sure that we know ourselves well enough to tackle the problems that are ahead. There's the first life lesson. How about the second one now? You know what? Everybody is going to hurt in the 400 meters unless you're doing it wrong, right? Everybody's going to hurt in this race. I can remember it's the fifth and final event of the decathlon's first day of competition, right? So you've done the 100, you've done the long jump, you've done the shot put, the high jump. Now you come to this last event, and you got to be mentally tough because you know it's going to hurt. You know that it's going to be very painful. And without going into too much of the physiological, reasons why, I just want to explain to you a little bit of why that hurts so bad. I think everyone who's ever tried to run a long distance, at a fairly fast pace, you know exactly what the feeling of lactic acid is, right? Everybody knows that term, but it is a waste product of your metabolism when you're running that fast. Right? This substance is like an exhaust, the exhaust that comes out the back of your car. It's an exhaust that comes out of your muscles, literally, when you are burning the sugars, carbohydrates, and other fuels in your muscles. And our bodies have an amazing mechanism that once the acid starts to build up in your muscles, in your bloodstream, it actually inhibits you from being able to burn the fuel. All right, so I want you to think about that. The accumulation of waste products, the lactic acid and other acids, can actually inhibit the burning of more fuel. So I used to joke with my runners and my athletes and say, listen, you could never run fast enough to kill yourself. It might feel that way, but you're never going to actually run hard enough to kill yourself. Your body will always check itself. And the most experienced 400-meter runners will tell you that the first 200 to 300 meters of the race are relatively easy. But it's the last part of the race where this acid starts to accumulate that you know that pain is going to start to show up. It's a mental thing for you to know that pain is coming, right? Maybe you've got a task in your life that you dread, right? And the immaturity in us wants us to shy away from that pain. Like a lot of student athletes back in my coaching days, they hated to run the 400. For instance, at the end of the track meet is a great fun race called the 4x400 meter relay. And Coach Grimes here was notorious to put multiple people in multiple teams, an A team, a B team, a C team for the school that we represented, to have as many people as possible run this last 400 meters as a part of training, as a part of mental discipline, but everybody hated it. Like, not too many kids. It was a very strange individual that said, oh, sure, I'll do it. I'd love to run that 400 meters, especially at the end of the race. But an immature leader often does the same thing, right? We know that something's going to be uncomfortable or unpleasant. Our mindset is already set against it, and we don't want to do it. Naturally, we dread it. But if you won't commit yourself to running into the pain, to being willing to take that risk, to have the courage to step into that pain and lean in and do that on a regular basis, then you may not ever reach your leadership potential. It's the hard things, right? It's the hard things that make us better. The mature leader actually runs into those painful moments. You will lean into those things. You don't desire conflict. You're not seeking out to be, difficult. You're not trying to create drama. I'm just saying that when you know that something's going to be painful, a mature person takes a deep breath, puts their chin down, and they lean into it and they attack it, right? Knowing that something will hurt should not necessarily shy us away from it, right? So it's going to be difficult. We need to lean into it. And that's what I learned in the 400 meters. The 400 meters is a very painful race. But if you can suffer more than the next guy can, right? Especially in the decathlon, you're going to score more points. And that's what it's really all about, is the value and the experience that you bring by rushing and leaning into the pain that will make you a better person. It's going to make you a better leader. It's going to make you a better character all around. It's a character trait that I learned, right? Pace yourself and don't be afraid of the pain. You've got to know yourself well enough to pace yourself, but you've got to hurry into those difficult situations. Leadership demands that we know ourselves and that we're not afraid, right? That we have courage to rush into something that's going to be unpleasant. Because there's nothing really pleasant about the 400 meters. Let's just face it. Those of us that love the sport, love track and field, we know that the 400 meters is one of the most difficult races in the track meet. But it teaches us how to tackle a problem, right? Tackle a problem by knowing yourself well enough and set a pace that you know you can keep. Don't burn out, right? Number 2, don't be afraid of the pain. In life, there are difficult things that just make us uncomfortable. But if you get used to disciplining yourself, mind, body, and soul, to lean into those difficult things, you can be the best leader that you can be. I hope that helps you and encourages you here today. And I hope you find pace, that you know yourself well enough that you can master yourself and make that disciplined and courageous step into the things that are difficult. It's so exciting to be sharing through the podcast and through the YouTube channel. I would encourage you to go ahead and log into my website, charlesrgrimes.com. And I would love to connect with you in many different ways, either through social media. You see on the video here, Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. Please just search for Charlie Grimes or the Encouragers United podcast. Another great feature that I want to encourage you with is that I'm taking questions and comments from you, the listeners. And I would love for you to get on the website, leave me a voicemail, ask a question. Maybe you have a comment about one of our recent episodes. I would love to integrate you into another episode upcoming. And by and large, we would love for you to share this episode and the podcast with someone that you know that might enjoy it. Go ahead and leave me a rating on the podcast software or app that you're listening on. And overall, just be an encourager. I hope that this gives you the encouragement to go out and make it a great day. Like I always say, we want to start where we are, take what we have, and do what we can. All the best. Enjoy.